Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the ECM Podcast. I'm Caroline Fontagneux, and I'm very happy to host this series that will take you behind the scenes of new music on ECM Records. In this new episode, I have the pleasure to meet again with legend John Scofield to discuss his new trio double album, Uncle John's Band. John talks about all kinds of music that he loves, the joy of playing with friends, and how to turn anything into a jazz song. My first question was about how fun it was to record this album.
Well, you know, it's playing music is one of the greatest joys of my life, and even more than when I was younger. I think now I really do enjoy it and see it as a celebration every time I get to play. And I really love playing with my friends, you know, with other musicians. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, in that way, it really, really was fun. And we got to, you know, this trio, we've played together a bunch. So, you know, I had a lot of possibilities for material. And that was fun, too, you know, to get to play all these different songs. But yeah, I think that you realize how it has to be fun in order for it to be successful. Yeah. This kind of music, you know. And if you take it too seriously and it's uptight and not fun, something gets lost.
Can you fake the fun?
Well, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, you know. You might be having a bad day. Well, you make a mistake and you can't let it throw you, you know. You always have to look on the positive side, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, mistakes are not the opposite of fun, but I mean, you can have bad nights, of course. You can have like terrible audiences or just like a shitty day that turns into a bad night. Yeah. But like in studio, do you think that the listener can tell if you're faking?
Well, yes. I think that it's good when it's good, and when it's not, you're kind of faking it. And for me, I think it's subtle, and probably a lot of people can't tell, but it makes a huge difference, you know, if everybody's sort of in tune with each other, all the musicians, you know, if we're on the same wavelength. Luckily, that's what happened on this record.
Yeah, it feels very free and
nice. and like I said, it's got to be fun. Otherwise, it does come through that it's just work, you know, and then that's no good.
Yeah. Did you have an overall vision initially of the album, or like?
Not really. My overall vision was for us to make good music together. As a trio. And I had just been out on tour for a month with another one of my groups, this Yankee Go Home project, that Vicente is also the bass player in that group. And we got off the plane, and I knew I wanted to go in the studio when I was kind of in shape, you know. And so we went right in the studio, and the idea was to record all this music that we'd been playing over the years and that I'd been playing, and songs that I liked. And that was the only concept, really. Yeah. And of course I looked at the program and thought, well, you know, you can't have two pieces that are exactly the same or what, you know. And there has to be slow, fast, medium, different grooves and all that. I always think like that anyway, whether it's a concert or a record or whatever. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Like, all of your albums, I think I can say that about all of your albums, have this thought out, like curated vibe. You know, remember when we were making, I say we, but we're almost the same age, right? So when we were...
I'm the same age as you times two, but yeah.
When we were making mixtape, like, you know, like, it feels like there's always this vibe.
Yeah, you did that when you made a mixtape, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You just like, it's a very curated, collection of tunes.
Mm-hmm. And you do that when you're performing live too, you know, because you want to, you don't want to bore yourself, and you have to use yourself as the kind of, you know, thermometer to see if it's working. You know, if you're engaged and then there's a good chance that some of the audience will be. And so you just played a fast, loud song. So you play something soft, and that makes the mood different. It makes people interested, makes you interested.
Are you more thinking about yourself or the band or the listener? Meaning, like, when you curate this list of tunes for an album or for a show, is it because you want it to be fun for you, or you like adapting to the
music's always for everybody, me first. Mm-hmm. and I really think the rule is that I have to please myself. And that sounds selfish, but we have to, in order for the music to be good and be something you want to put out there, you have to love it, and then hopefully other people will love it too, And the other thing is about the programming of this record. I always think that there has to be a variety of music, but Manfred Eicher did the program. He did the sequence.
The sequence, yeah.
So, he didn't tell us what to play. I sent him all the music that we felt like playing, and he thinks really well programmatically like that, which in a way I can't tell after a while. I know we need a certain variety,
shape,
but then I can't listen objectively to the performance, and that's where he has really helped on this, nice. And the last couple of records as well too, for ECM.
Were there songs that were recorded that didn't make it onto the album?
Yeah, there's one song I wrote that doesn't even have a name yet that I need to improve on.
Okay.
Yeah, so that didn't make it, but everything else is there.
One? Okay.
And that's the other thing is I didn't know this was going to be a double CD. We just kept recording all the tunes we felt like playing, and then they all worked out except that one.
But you had your list, or is there any tune that came up with like, oh, let's play Mr. Tambourine Man?
Yeah.
Or was it planned?
No, it was planned because I picked the songs. And that, I just sit down with my guitar and or I'll hear a song and I'll learn it, know. And like on Mr. Tambourine Man, when I was a kid, I really liked this song because it was a long time ago that was a hit record by the Byrds. Yeah. And so it's different from Bob Dylan's version. It's completely different, but the little guitar harmony with the two notes were the ones that I think the Byrds were singing. Their harmony vocal line I played on the guitar. Yeah, so no, I play them all by myself first and see if they sound good on the guitar.
Decided to write a few blurbs for every track in the booklet of this album, which is really nice. Like, it really gives some perspective and just like insight, and that was your idea?
Actually, no. They asked me in Munich, and they said
label.
Because I had done it before, and I like to do it. But I like liner notes too. I like to see what people say about the songs.
Yeah.
I've always, since I was a kid when I had albums.
Does it make you hear the music differently when you?
I don't know, but it makes me learn more about the music. So it's hard to know if it makes you listen differently, but. Especially when it's coming from the creator, or from the artist, you know.
I always like to listen to an album before reading the liner notes, and then read them and listen again.
Yeah.
And I realize that there is always like a different perspective in knowing all those things. This is a collection. There are 14 songs. 7 and 7.
Wow, 14. You did a lot of stuff. Wow.
Yes, you did. That's a great double album. We were saying earlier, it's your first double album ever.
Yes, nobody ever let me make a double album. This is the first time, too, that I had enough music because we just had a lot of songs to play. So
a lot of first times with ECM, that's cool. I want to talk about the covers and I want to talk about your compositions. About the covers, how did you come up with this list?
So, the covers are mostly songs that I liked as a kid, actually.
You grew up with.
But you want to find stuff to turn into jazz. Mm-hmm. one of the important things, maybe the most important thing, is where you can go with the song.
Yeah.
When you improvise and when, as a group, you take off, you know.
Yeah.
And so it has to work that way. And with the songs Mr. Tambourine Man and Uncle John's Band, both those are like rock classics, you know. But we were able to, for some reason, and the way like Vicente and Bill can play, we were able to kind of play free jazz on these songs, you know. And we took them and then, you know, would play the song, and then that would lead us into some really open, free communication as a trio. So that's why I knew I could do these songs with these guys, because I knew we could stretch like that.
Yeah, it's a really fun collection.
But yeah, I chose the songs that I like. So it's, you know, it's both my originals and covers.
Yeah.
You know, what they call covers now. And the songs are songs that I've known for a long time, like Mr. Tambourine Man since I was a kid, Uncle John's Band. I got into that because I was never a Deadhead, and I know people are going to think, oh, this is a Grateful Dead cover album or tribute album. It's actually not. It's just like, when else am I going to have a chance to call a record Uncle John's Band? My name is John. It's my band. Maybe I'm your uncle. Who knows?
Yeah.
And one of the songs we recorded was called Uncle John's Band. But I and as a kid, I wasn't a Deadhead. I was into other stuff. Then I became a jazz fanatic, you know. But, you know, 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I'm not even sure, I started to play some with Phil Lesh, the bassist from the Grateful Dead, who would call me to play with his Phil Lesh and friends. And it's been so much fun to sort of look at that music and have to learn those songs. And this is one of the ones that really stuck with me, that I really like as a composition. And I've learned here late in life that Jerry Garcia and Robert Hunter wrote some really nice songs. But this is the only one that we ended up playing.
The songs that you say that you can turn them into jazz.
Yeah.
Are you looking at the chords before deciding?
Yeah, all that. I mean, whatever mood it gets to. It doesn't mean that it has to swing, you know, and be like a standard. But yeah, you know, on both Uncle John and Mr. Tambourine Man, it was sort of more that there was just this key center that we could play around with and play really freely with. We didn't follow the forms of the songs. Yeah. And so on both of those, it seemed to work like that. On other ones, on the Neil Young song that we do, Old Man, there's just one little part of the song that has these two chords that I really like. And it's the very beginning. Old man, look at my life. I'm a lot like you were. That's just two chords, like F major 7 to D major 7. They are 3-bar phrases if you look at it kind of in double time. And so we took those 6 bars, and that turned into the thing for improvisation. So there we weren't playing free jazz, you know, like we were on Mr. Tambourine Man and Uncle John's Band. There we were following this form. So yes, on Old Man, which is a song I really liked, always loved Neil Young, and especially that song. But that had this little section that then we could stretch out on.
Existed are a little like Welcome to My World invitation, right?
Yeah.
But your originals have those little hints of very autobiographical, of course, but also something very, very inviting, I feel.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I like melody, you know. I mean, I realize that some people, when they become quote unquote jazz musicians, they get involved in other aspects in music, but I really do like a really nice melody. And you know, the composers that I admire, you know, in jazz and elsewhere, you know, whether it's Richard Rodgers or, you know, Paul McCartney or Monk, you know, And Wayne Shorter, all these guys. It's just these melodies, you know.
You mentioned Paul McCartney as a good songwriter.
I think he's really a good songwriter.
But it's only American composers
Oh my God!
on this album. That's not on purpose.
No. I didn't mean to do that, but I'm a patriot. No, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah, so that was not.
I have to quickly go record some Berlioz or something. You know, it's a little Beethoven in there.
We're gonna add some French. Please add some French to it too. Exactly. So we stated earlier the title is the last track of this double album, and it's a Grateful Dead cover. It's a Grateful Dead tune. You said you're not a fan.
Yeah, I wasn't a Deadhead as a kid, while others were, you know, completely into that world. I wasn't, and my rock and roll period was sort of more Jimi Hendrix and the blues and B.B. King, you know. But then I got into jazz, and so I just sort of missed the Grateful Dead. I was aware of them because they came out when I was a hippie little kid in like 1968.
Yeah,
I was at their first New York concert.
Oh, wow.
Which was in Tompkins Square Park in New York City in 1967.
Amazing.
And but I was there to hear the opening act, which was the Blues Project, Al Cooper's band, which I really liked. I sort of just didn't know about the Dead, you know, and was just into other kinds of music and came to appreciate them like 10 years ago when I had to learn all these songs to play with this nice guy who wanted me to play with him, Phil Lesh, who's my friend, who loves improvised music.
Yeah,
and the Dead always did that,
of
you
course.
know.
But I want to talk a little bit about the relationship with jam bands.
Mm-hmm.
You're always going back and coming back to jazz because it's your music. But you've always had a relationship with jam bands.
You know, and
both ways.
You know what? I don't even before there were jam bands, there was rock and roll and the guitar, and that's where I started. And always the cool stuff that I would hear bands playing was when they would stretch out and it was kind of jazzy. But these were rock and roll musicians, you know, whether it was the band I just talked about, the Blues Project, or you know, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and then funk. I always liked funk, you know. And so all these areas, I was, you know, and then fusion started, you know, in 1970 or something, right when I was becoming a jazz kid, and I've always, you know, related to backbeat rock and roll music. I love the original rock and roll, you know, and Little Richard and Chuck Berry, you know, I love that stuff.
Yeah, and Buddy Holly. But like you are a huge influence and hero for Trey Anastasio from Fish or Dave Matthews. Like talk about you as their number one influence. And especially, which I think is interesting, your Miles years. Your sound with
Well, it
Miles.
turns out that the Miles stuff people liked. And, okay, I think Phil Lesh said it best. Phil said when the Dead played opposite Miles in like 1971 or something, you know, at the Fillmore or Wonderland, one of those places, Phil said, we heard what Miles was doing, and it's what the Dead wanted to do but couldn't really do. And Miles could do it.
Right.
And that just it was so beautiful that Phil put it that way. And I think, you know, jazz musicians, and it wasn't just Miles, but the guys that Miles surrounded himself with who loved that funky beat and were jazz musicians. Joe Zawinul, Keith Jarrett, Wayne Shorter, all these guys, you know, they were hip to that. And that's right when I came on the scene, you know, when that music was happening. And
Did Miles listen to that?
Oh, yeah. That's when I started playing with Miles. One time he called up my house, and Susan answered the phone, and we had Working and Steaming, old Miles. And he said, turn that shit off, you know. And, you know, it's still maybe my favorite music, Miles, sorry. But Miles was really trying to just incorporate rock and roll into his music and pop music, and looking to that, because he just didn't want to be old, and he did not want to be
He never wanted.
he didn't want to be a relic at all.
met the trio?
I met Bill in 1990, and we started playing together.
30 years ago.
So it was 30 years ago, and we've played together a whole lot. I probably played with him more than, certainly more than any other drummer during that period of time. And I think he's a real giant on his instrument and in music. His talent is, to me, is pretty staggering. How easy music is for him. And he's a poet on the drums. The way he constructs music and the way he shades the musicians he's playing with and helps it all come together and plays as part of a group with an intelligence that's really, really awesome. And I feel very lucky to have gotten to play with. I've learned so much from playing with Bill over the years. Yeah. And Vicente I haven't played with as much, but it's been years now, at least 7 years or something that I've been playing with Vicente a lot. And he's got an immense talent and a huge scope. He knows everything. And he, I think we're like-minded in that we like a lot of the same stuff, and he's wants the music to be very expensive, but he lives in the pocket, in the groove, and that's so important. And so does Bill. So these guys, I rely on them to keep it together, Yeah. And they're, but at the same time, they're groove players who are also really looking for a way to expand and to let the music breathe, and to by using your ears to let it go to a place that you never imagined, where you're responding reflexively, and where things can happen that you couldn't do without each other on that journey, And that's what I love about playing with them, and I look forward to more, and I look forward to myself just opening up more so that it can really just go to a place that I wouldn't think of by myself, that we can do as a group.
What's your relationship with the trio format? It's special.
I love playing with other guys too, where you get, a bigger sound, but the trio, guitar can be an accompanist and a lead voice and kind of both at once, not quite in the way the piano can, but it's a challenge, and then you get a great bass player like Vicente who can solo, and be the lead voice too. And so it's all there. And then Bill plays drums not just like a beat keeper. He's playing accompaniment and dialogue with you all the time. Yeah. And in a really musical way, so that it all makes sense.
John Scofield about his new ECM trio album, Uncle John's Band. Thank you for joining, choosing, and listening to our ECM podcast. I'm Caroline Fontagneux, and I look forward to sharing more music with you in the next episode.